In the unforgiving Texas frontier of 1875, where Comanche raids and settler prejudice collide, widowed black midwife Eliza Freeman discovers 3 abandoned newborns beside their slain Comanche mother. Against frontier laws forbidding racial mixing, she secretly raises the triplets, unaware their warrior father hunts for vengeance against the very soldiers who killed his wife. Eliza's decision to protect these children will force her to confront both hostile townspeople, demanding their removal, and a grieving Comanche chief who never knew his legacy survived. A moonlit Prairie 1889 gunfire cracks the night. Eliza Freeman and Broken Shield stand back to back, surrounded by bounty hunters. 3 teenage Comanche triplets move with startling coordination around them. They defend a small homestead where both white settlers and Comanche families shelter inside. Hand over the half. Breed children or everyone burns. Broken Shield and Eliza exchange a look. He whispers something. She nods, tears streaming before he steps forward alone toward the armed men. 14 years earlier, dust coated everything. The drought had lasted 3 summers, turning the Texas frontier brittle as old bones. Eliza Freeman rode her mule away from the Henderson farm, her payment for delivering their baby, a small sack of cornmeal tucked in her saddlebag. The mother had lived, the child had lived, the father had barely looked at her while pressing the payment into her palm. Black healers were tolerated when needed, forgotten when not. The setting sun painted the hills copper. Eliza adjusted her worn hat against the glare. Something carried on the wind, a sound no prairie woman could mistake, a baby's cry. She dismounted near a ravine, following the sound down the rocky slope. The woman lay still, her blood dark against the red earth. Army bootprints surrounded her. 3 tiny forms squirmed beside her, wrapped in a deerskin blanket. Triplets, still slick with birth, hours old at most. Comanche, the woman's clothes, her braided hair, the patterns on the blanket, all told Eliza who they were, who their mother had been. The smallest made a mewing sound, hunger. They would not survive the night. Eliza knelt in the dust. She knew what happened to Indians captured by the army, to black women found helping Indians, to mixed-blood children nobody wanted. She touched a tiny hand, 5 perfect fingers wrapped around her thumb. The decision formed like a river finding its path, inevitable, dangerous. Eliza wrapped them in her shawl. Before leaving, she carefully removed the turquoise and silver necklace from the mother's neck. Something to remember, something to explain someday. She named them for the stars. Real, the protector, born first. Sirius, the tracker, born middle. Vega, the healer, born last. Different as siblings could be, yet connected by some invisible thread Eliza could never quite grasp. When one cried, the others turned toward the sound before it reached their ears. When one fell ill, the others grew restless hours before fever showed. When Real spotted a snake in the yard, Sirius appeared with a shovel while Vega readied medicines, though no one had spoken a word. They were 7 when Real asked the question, "Why do we look different from you?" Eliza set down her mending. "You come from Comanche people. I found you when your mother died, bringing you into this world." "Where is our father?" Sirius asked. Eliza's needle pierced the fabric. "I don't know." Vega, quietest of the 3, touched the wooden box where Eliza kept the necklace. "You keep secrets in here?" Eliza nodded. Some truths were too heavy for children, some secrets protected, some wounds never healed. Years passed, the children grew. Rumors spread about the strange household on the edge of the settlement, the black healer woman. The 3 quiet children who spoke a language no one recognized when they thought no one listened. Drought strangled the land, cattle died, Comanche, raids increased as game disappeared. Settlers looked for someone to blame. They were 14 when the trouble truly began, tall for their age, features clearly showing their heritage. Reverend Wade saw them in town while they traded Eliza's medicines for supplies. Those half, "Breed children of yours," he said, blocking their path. "Where did they come from?" Real stepped forward. "We come from the stars, Reverend." The preacher's face hardened. Blasphemy. That night, Eliza showed them the necklace for the first time. Silver and turquoise set in pattern she'd learned meant something sacred. "I heard stories," she told them, "about a Comanche chief whose pregnant wife disappeared during an army attack. They say she wore a necklace like this one. They say he searches still, leaving carnage wherever he rides." Vega held the necklace. "Our father is alive. If he lives, he is a warrior fighting a war that cannot be won." Real's jaw tightened. Would he want us if he knew? Eliza had no answer. She had raised them in a world that wanted neither their mother's people nor her own. She had taught them to heal and hunt, to read books and track animals, to speak English and the fragments of Comanche she had learned over the years. She had not taught them how to live between worlds that only wanted them dead. Later that night, Sirius spotted the figure watching their cabin from the distant hills. Moonlight gleamed on something metal in his hand. "Someone's out there," he whispered. Eliza doused the lamps. "Stay inside." But in the morning the watcher was gone. Only tracks remained. A man on horseback, a Comanche warrior carrying a rifle. The drought broke a week later. Rain transformed the land overnight. Grass appeared where dust had ruled. The creek behind their homestead swelled, bringing life back to the parched earth. And with the rain came the wounded warrior. Sirius found him while checking traps. A man collapsed beside the creek, blood darkening the rain-soaked ground beneath him. Old scars covered his chest and arms. Fresh bullet wounds marked his shoulder and side. The boy ran home, heart hammering against his ribs. Eliza had rules about strangers, about danger, about soldiers and warriors alike. But when his siblings saw his face, no words were needed. They took their mother's card and went to the creek together. The man was Comanche, his long hair matted with blood and rain, his face marked with grief lines deeper than any 14. Old had seen. They brought him to the barn, hidden from the main house. Vega cleaned his wounds while Real stood guard. Sirius erased their tracks. When Eliza discovered them, her face went pale as prairie chalk. "Do you know what you've done?" The children looked at the warrior, then at their mother. "He would have died," Vega said simply. Eliza knelt beside the unconscious man. His body told stories her children couldn't read. Ritual scars, battle wounds, years of vengeance etched into flesh. She recognized him from wanted posters in town, from frightened whispers and trading posts, from army patrols increasing their presence along the frontier. Broken Shield, the Comanche wararchief who left no survivors, the father of her children. Broken Shield had not meant to survive. The bullet in his shoulder should have finished him. The one in his side nearly had 7 years of raiding, of vengeance, of watching his people dwindle. 7 years of searching for a ghost. Fevered dreams held him, his wife's face, the sound of her laugh, the weight of her hand on his chest, the promise of children he would never meet. He woke to unfamiliar walls, a barn, clean straw beneath him. Fresh bandages on his wounds, a young girl watching him with eyes too old for her face. "Who are you?" His voice scraped like stone on stone. "Vega, my brother Sirius found you by the creek." She offered a clay cup of water. "Our mother says you were shot twice. Mother, brother." English words spoken with a frontier accent, but something else beneath, something familiar. "Where am I?" "Safe," she said, not answering the question. The barn door opened. A black woman entered, straight-backed and wary. 2 more children followed, a tall boy with watchful eyes, another with a hunter's steady gaze. "You're awake," the woman said. Broken Shield studied her face strength there. Wisdom, no fear, though she held a rifle loosely at her side. "Why did you help me? My children made that choice." She nodded toward the 3. "I'm making sure it wasn't a mistake." The way she said children, claiming them, protecting them. Something in their features tugged at him, something he couldn't name. I am called Broken Shield. I know who you are. She didn't offer her name. Rest. When you can ride, you should go. Captain Hollister's patrol found the tracks 3 days later. Bootprints leading to the creek bank, blood on the stones, a warrior's trail vanishing into the undergrowth. He's wounded, Lieutenant Parker said. Can't have gone far. Hollister surveyed the land beyond the Creek settlement territory, places a Comanche warrior wouldn't go, shouldn't go. He spent 7 years hunting me, Hollister said, because I followed orders he didn't understand. Sir, increase patrols, check every homestead. Someone's either hiding him or buried him. The triplets brought Broken Shield food, small offerings, rabbit stew, cornbread, wild onions freshly dug. They watched him with curious eyes as his strength returned. The boy named Reel was first to ask, "Why do you make war on the whites?" Broken Shield set down his bowl. "Why does a wolf hunt the deer? To survive." "Our mother says survival doesn't require killing. Your mother is not Comanche, neither are we." Reel's voice hardened, not fully. Broken Shield studied the boy, the defiant tilt of his chin, the set of his shoulders. "Pride there, Comanche pride. Who was your father? We don't know." Sirius spoke from the doorway, always watching, always alert. "Our mother found us beside our birth mother's body." Something cold settled in Broken Shield's chest. When 14 summers ago, after an army attack 14 summers, the same time his wife had disappeared, the same year, his heart had been carved from his chest. The woman called herself Eliza. She came to change his bandages each morning. Her hands gentle but impersonal. Healer's hands that had saved many lives. "The children say you found them." He said on the 4th day that their mother was dead. Eliza's finger stilled against his skin. "Yes, where? A ravine near Baldwin Creek. She'd just given birth when soldiers found her. Baldwin Creek, where his band had been camped, where the attack had come at dawn. These children," he said carefully. "They were newborns, yes, 3 of them." Her eyes met his. Knowledge passed between them, unspoken. "They're mine," he said. Eliza tied off the bandage with a sharp tug. "They're mine now." That night, fever took him again. Dreams more vivid than before. His wife showing him the necklace, silver and turquoise, the pattern of stars. 3 stars for the 3 lives she carried. When they come, she had said, they will be children of 2 worlds. He woke calling her name. The girl Vega sat beside him with a cool cloth. "You have her eyes," he whispered. "Whose eyes?" "Your mother's days stretched into a week." His strength returned slowly. The children brought him outside to sit in the sun. They showed him their home, the garden where Vega grew healing plants, the workshop where Reel carved wood. The tanned hides were serious practice, Comanche symbols Eliza had taught them, symbols no white settler woman should know. "She learned for us," Vega explained, "so we would know something of our people, words that tightened his throat. He taught them in return, how to move silently through tall grass, how to read weather and cloud pattern. How to speak prayers their birth mother would have taught them. Why do you fight? Sirius asked him. Your people are so few now. Truth hung heavy as storm clouds. Because I lost everything. Because I had nothing left. The thunder of approaching horses shattered the fragile peace. Army scouts, 6 of them, heading toward the homestead. Inside, Eliza ordered the children to Broken Shield, she said, the root cellar now. Root cellars were for storing food, for preserving life through winter, not for hiding warriors who had claimed dozens of white lives. He went anyway. Voices filtered down through the floorboards. Captain Hollister, the man whose orders had destroyed his band, had killed his wife. We're looking for a wounded Comanche warrior. No one here but us, Eliza replied. Those your children I saw running inside. A pause. Yes, unusual-looking children for a colored woman. God's blessings come in many forms, Captain. Footsteps above, boots on wood, men searching corners, opening doors. Those are Comanche markings. A soldier said on that leather there, "My children are interested in native crafts. I encourage learning." Ma'am, harboring hostiles is a hanging offense. So is trespassing on a widow's property without cause. The footsteps retreated. Horses galloped away. The cellar door opened. "They'll be back," Eliza said. That night, a storm broke over the prairie, lightning split the sky, wind rattled the cabin walls, Broken Shield sat by the fire, watching the flames dance. Eliza placed something on the table between them. Silver gleamed in the firelight, turquoise caught the glow, his wife's necklace. "Where did you get this?" His voice barely audible beneath the thunder. She was wearing it. He lifted the necklace with trembling fingers. The last piece of his wife, the symbol of her promise. "I was coming back to her," he said. "We were going to Mexico, away from the fighting. The children don't know this belonged to her. They are all I have left." Eliza's eyes met his across the fire. "They are all I have left, too." A pounding at the door cut through the storm's fury. The children appeared, alert as young wolves. A young settler boy stood dripping on their threshold. "Reverend Wade's got the town riled up. Says you're harboring Indians. Says the army's coming at dawn to clean out this place." The door closed. The family stood in silence. "They will kill you all." Broken Shield said, "For sheltering me, for raising my children." "I know," Eliza's voice calm as still water. "We need to leave." Real said no. Broken Shield stood, decision forming like storm clouds gathering. "We will not run." Dawn arrived pale and uncertain. The night storm had passed, leaving mud and broken branches in its wake. Broken Shield stood on the porch, watching the horizon where riders would appear. "Why did you save me?" he asked Eliza without turning. "I didn't." She joined him, arms folded against the morning chill. "The children did. You could have turned me in. My husband was a Buffalo soldier." The words came slow, dragged from some deep well of memory. "He died trying to stop an army massacre of Comanche women and children." Broken Shield turned to face her. When 14 years ago Baldwin Creek, the name hung between them like smoke. "I was there," he said. "A soldier tried to warn us. The others shot him in the back." Eliza nodded once. Her fingers brushed the worn gold band on her left hand. "We both lost everything that day," she said. "Not everything." Broken Shield looked toward the house where the triplets slept, not them. The plan formed quickly. Broken Shield would ride to the hidden camps where the last free Comanche families had. Eliza would visit trusted settlers who had benefited from her healing. The children would prepare the homestead. "They'll expect us to run," Real said, checking the cabin cytoline. "Horse surrender," Sirius added, mapping escape routes through the back country. Vega crushed herbs in the kitchen, mixing medicines that mimicked death. "We'll give them neither." Broken Shield watched his children work in perfect coordination. They moved like a single being with 6 arms and 3 minds. The connection between them ran deeper than blood. "Your mother taught you." "Well," he said. "Which one?" Vega asked, not looking up from her work. The question struck him silent. Captain Hollister rode ahead of his patrol, mind troubled by contradicting orders. "Find the Comanche warrior," his commander had said. But Reverend W.D. Influence had turned a simple capture mission into something darker. "The land needs cleansing," the Reverend had proclaimed. "These mixed influences corrupt our Christian settlement." Hollister knew what that meant. He had followed such orders before. At Baldwin Creek, the day that haunted his dreams, the day he had watched women and children die while following orders he knew were wrong. He had been trying to find Broken Shield for years, not to kill him, to deliver news, to end a blood feud built on misunderstanding. But Reverend Wade had other plans. The man had gathered a group of bounty hunters, men paid in promises of land, the same promises that had driven the massacre 14 years earlier. By midday, riders appeared from the eastern hills, not army uniforms. Comanche families on tired ponies, women, children, elders, the people Broken Shield had summoned. Why did you bring them here? Eliza watched the approaching band. They'll be caught in whatever comes. They were already caught. Broken Shield's voice held no apology. Now we stand together. An hour later, wagons arrived from the south. Settler families with drawn faces. The Mackenzies whose son Eliza had saved from fever. The Wilsons whose daughter's broken legs she had set. The Archers whose twin babies she had delivered in a snowstorm, debts being paid, alliances forming like spring ice breaking apart and reforming. You've made allies. Broken Shield observed, I've made neighbors. Eliza directed the newcomers to positions around the homestead. People remember kindness when it's time to choose sides. The triplets moved through both groups, translating, organizing, connecting children of two worlds, building a bridge between ancient enemies. Vega caught Broken Shield watching her mix medicines. You look at us strangely. I see your mother in you, Eliza. No, the woman who carried you. He touched the necklace now hanging around his neck. She was strong, stubborn, wise, like Eliza. He nodded slowly. Yes, like Eliza. A rider approached from the north. Lieutenant Parker, alone and under white flag. Captain Hollister requests a meeting, he announced stiffly, with the Comanche chief called Broken Shield. The meeting place was neutral ground, a flat rock outcropping overlooking both the homestead and the approaching army patrol. Hollister dismounted first, Broken Shield second, two men whose lives had been entwined by violence neither had chosen. I've been looking for you for 7 years, Hollister said, to finish what you started at Baldwin Creek. No, to tell you the truth dropped between them like a stone in still water. The massacre had been Reverend Wade's plan all along. The land held copper deposits. Wade had investors waiting. The Comanche were inconvenient obstacles. Your wife wasn't killed by my men, Hollister said. She escaped the initial attack. We found tracks leading southwest. She never arrived at our meeting place. She was with child moving slowly. Children, Broken Shield corrected, 3 of them. Understanding dawned in Hollister's weathered face. The children at the widow's place, mine. Hollister removed his hat. A soldier gesture of respect. I tried to stop Wade, then I'm trying to stop him now. Why? Because orders that dishonor the uniform deserve to be broken. The sound of horses interrupted them. Riders approaching from the east, not soldiers. Bounty hunters hired guns with warrants signed by territorial judges. Under Reverend Wade's influence, Broken Shield and Hollister rode hard back to the homestead. Warnings shouted, defenses prepared, the confrontation that had been brewing for 14 years finally breaking over the land like a summer storm. Night fell. The bounty hunters surrounded the homestead. Lanterns glowed in the darkness. Broken Shield and Eliza stood on the porch, the triplets between them, a fragile family facing destruction. Hand over the half-breed children or everyone burns. The voice belonged to Reverend Wade, sitting tall on his horse at the edge of the light. Broken Shield exchanged a look with Eliza. In her eyes he saw the same fierce protection he felt burning in his chest, the same determination, the same resolve. I will speak with him, he whispered. They'll kill you, perhaps, but not before I tell the truth. He stepped forward into the lantern light, alone. Unarmed except for the necklace hanging at his throat. I am Broken Shield, he called. These children are mine by blood. This woman is their mother by choice. We will not surrender them. Reverend W.D. face twisted in the flickering light. The territorial governor has authorized me to cleanse this area of hostile influence. The same way you cleansed Baldwin Creek of my people for copper in the hills. A ripple passed through the bounty hunters. Not all of them had known this part of the arrangement. Captain Hollister has confirmed the truth. Broken Shield continued. You ordered the death of my wife for land and wealth. Your heathen wife was an obstacle to progress. W.D. mask slipped, revealing the greed beneath, just as these mixed blood abominations are now. From the shadows, Hollister emerged on horseback, army uniform gleaming in the darkness, official papers in hand. Reverend Wade, he announced formally. You are under arrest for conspiracy against the United States government, falsification of military orders, and incitement to violence against civilian populations. The standoff balanced on a knife edge, guns raised on both sides. The triplets watched from the porch, three pairs of eyes that had never known peace, only the spaces between conflicts. Lightning flashed across the sky, thunder followed, another storm breaking over the prairie, another night when everything would change. The first shot came from Reverend Wade's gun. It missed Hollister by inches. The second came from the darkness behind the bounty hunters. It found W.D. Shoulder, spinning him from his saddle. Chaos erupted like startled birds from winter grass. Bounty hunters fired blindly into shadows. Army soldiers returned fire with disciplined precision. Comanche warriors moved like ghosts through the darkness. Settler families barricaded windows and doors. In the center of the storm stood Broken, Shield, unarmed, unmoved. 7 years of vengeance had brought him here to this moment, to this choice. He raised his arms toward the sky. His voice cut through gunfire. Enough. An ancient peace ritual. Word his grandfather had taught him, a warrior's right to parley, to speak truth before blood covered the land. The firing slowed, stopped. Even those who didn't understand the words recognized their power. Broken Shield walked to where Reverend Wade lay clutching his bleeding shoulder, knelt beside the man who had orchestrated the destruction of his people for profit. My wife believed our children would bridge two worlds, he said, voice low enough that only Wade could hear, your world and mine. She died believing peace was possible. Wade spat at his feet. There will never be peace while your kind draws breath. My kind. Broken Shield looked toward the homestead where his children watched. Which kind is that? He rose, turning to face the armed men surrounding them. The bounty hunters, the soldiers, the settlers, and Comanche. All witnesses to the moment. This man has lied to you. He announced, he told you I was a murderer of women and children, that my people were animals to be hunted. Wade struggled to his feet, blood darkening his coat. He's killed dozens of white settlers. I killed soldiers who attacked my people. Broken Shield's gaze swept the crowd. I killed men who followed false orders from false prophets. Hollister dismounted, official papers still in hand. Reverend Wade has been using army patrols to clear land for mining interests. The massacre at Baldwin Creek was never authorized by the United States government. An uneasy murmur spread through the bounty hunters, men who had been promised payment, men who had been promised land. You were hired with lies, Hollister continued. There will be no payment. There will be no land grants. Dawn broke over the standoff, light revealing faces, weapons, choices being made in tense silence. The first bounty hunter lowered his rifle. Another followed, then another. W.D. face contorted. Cowards. There's still the half-breed children to deal with. Vega appeared on the porch carrying a small tray. She walked steadily through the armed men, stopping before Wade. Her gaze met his without flinching. Medicine for your wound, she said, offering a cup of dark liquid. Wade knocked it away. Poison from a witch's spawn. Healing, she corrected, from both my mothers teaching from the porch. Eliza watched her daughter stand unwavering before the man who wanted her dead. Pride and fear twisted together in her chest like prairie grass blown by contrary winds. Real and serious flanked their sister. 3 children, 3 bridges between worlds. The bounty hunters dispersed with the rising sun. Some rode east toward the settlement. Others vanished into the hills. Army soldiers took Wade into custody. His protests fading with distance, Hollister remained, watching the unlikely gathering at the Freeman homestead, Comanche families setting up lodges in the Yow, Meadow settler families sharing breakfast by the fire pit, children from both worlds playing a game involving stones and a circle drawn in. Dirt, what happens now? He asked Broken Shield. The warrior considered the question. 7 years of vengeance had left him empty, hollow as a dried gourd. Now something new grew in that space, something unexpected. I don't know, he admitted. Eliza joined them, her shadow stretching toward both men. Like an offering, we rebuild, she said simply. Broken Shield studied her face. Strength there, wisdom, the same qualities he had loved in his first wife, the same fierce protection of what mattered. Washington won't allow this, Hollister warned. Mixed settlements, Comanche living free, it goes against policy, then policy must change. Eliza replied inside the cabin while adults debated futures and possibilities. The triplets sat in quiet conference. They had grown up between worlds, neither fully Comanche nor fully part of the settlement. They belonged to the spaces between, to the bridges they themselves had become. Will he stay? Vega asked. Our father. Sirius traced Comanche symbols on the wooden table. He has nowhere else. He has his people, Real countered. We are his people, Vega said, and Eliza is ours. The question hung between them like smoke, finding its way around corners. What shape would their family take? What future could be built from so much broken past? Summer stretched into autumn. The Comanche families remained, setting up winter lodges in the valley behind the homestead. Settler families came and went, bringing news, trading goods, sharing meals. Hollister returned with papers from territorial authorities, his face grave with news none wanted to hear. Washington has ordered removal of all remaining Comanche to reservations in Indian Territory, he announced. No exceptions. Broken Shield received the news in silence. He had expected this, had known. Reprieve was temporary. When Eliza asked, 1 month, maybe less. That night, while children slept and adults whispered worried plans, Broken Shield slipped away to the ridge overlooking the valley, the place where he had first watched the homestead, tracking rumors of Comanche children raised by a black healer. Eliza found him there. She carried no lantern, needing no light to find her way across land she had walked for 14 years. You're leaving, she said. Not a question. If I stay, they will take everyone. His voice barely disturbed the night air. The children, your people, mine. They're the same people now. Broken Shield closed his eyes against truth that cut deeper than any battle wound. I have watched you with them, he said finally. You are their mother in all ways that matter, and you are their father. Her voice steady as earth. They need both histories, both strengths. What do you propose? A meeting with Washington officials? You as interpreter and mediator? This valley is experimental territory. They will never agree. Captain Hollister has influence and guilt, is a powerful motivator. 2 weeks later, Hollister returned again, this time alone, this time carrying different papers. The triplets watched from the porch as he dismounted, their future contained in whatever words he brought. Broken Shield and Eliza met him together, united front against whatever came. Washington has agreed to designate this valley as experimental territory. Hollister announced the residents may remain provided certain conditions are met. Relief spread through the gathered families like spring water through thirsty ground. What conditions? Broken Shield asked. You will serve as official interpreter and peace mediator between settlements. And inspectors arrive in 1 month to evaluate the experiment, 1 month to prove enemies could live as family, 1 month to justify 14 years of defying boundaries and expectations. Dawn broke over their defended homestead. The triplets stood between Eliza and Broken Shield, 3 bridges between worlds. Captain Hollister had delivered the news, then written away, leaving them to prepare. Broken Shield looked to Eliza, then to his children. He reached inside his shirt and withdrew the one thing he had kept for 14 years, a folded American flag taken from the soldier who had shown mercy to his wife, the Buffalo soldier who had died trying to warn them. Eliza's husband. He held it out not to Hollister, who had already gone, but to Eliza herself. He would be proud, he said, of what you've built here. Eliza's fingers brushed his as she took the flag of what we're building now. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing.